most great founders have a very clear spike. They are not great at everything, but they're really great at something, and then they leverage that. So that's number one. Number two is they have a ton of drive. And drive is very different, I think, from passion. I think passion is important. It's great with passionate people, but we all know a lot of passionate people who never get anything done. So passion in itself is not enough. Drive is more, yes, you're passionate, but you also have that combined with raw ambition and the ability to execute. So can you see that people have moved things forward in the past, achieved different things, hit milestones, and are they really ambitious about solving an important problem and doing something really big? So that's number two. Number three is grit. Right? Great founders never give up. Right? They just keep on hammering.
Absolutely. We're not looking to use AI to replace lawyers. I mean, lots of fun and games in the press about that, right? New technology like this comes out and our knee-jerk reaction is to go full force and just, replace all lawyers. No, it's not going to work. But there's a whole bunch of high volume, low value, repetitive work that lawyers do every single day of the week.
We had a really deep conversation one day and say, well, what do we do if one day, let's say social media dropped off the face of the earth? Like, how do we remain a real legacy business and continue to have the impact that we have? And I mentioned it before, it's one of the things that still to this day, it doesn't matter what time or when we read them, when we see the impact that our work has had for a person, I get the same butterflies in the stomach and the same feeling of like, this is the reason why, this is our purpose, and I feel as though a lot of my purpose to be able to do this.
And, the COVID hit. And
yes.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen. Like one day when there's a digital human who could be very lifelike, very intelligent conversations, and they could be agentic, like we could, the digital human interface that we're building could enable a lot of automations in just one screen, right?
This is AI Edge, powered by Microsoft, an unplugged podcast series exploring how AI is transforming Asia's startup landscape. Each episode features candid conversations with founders and industry leaders who are pioneering the next wave of tech breakthroughs. We'll delve into their personal journeys, uncovering what it takes to build successful ventures and scale impact in the evolving world of AI. Whether you're creating the next big thing or navigating the challenges of growth, this podcast is your front row seat to the future of AI. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Andrew Boyd, also known as Boydie. I lead Microsoft's startup, venture capital, and digital native business for Asia at Microsoft. And with me today is the amazing Sarah Webb, who is the COO of a New Zealand-based startup and scale-up, LawVu. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to start with a little bit about you and yourself and the journey that you've been on from a personal perspective.
Okay, good to see you again, Andrew. I'm the COO here at LawVu. I have a background in software engineering. So I was born and raised in London, and my whole career was there until about 10 years ago when I packed up and moved my family to New Zealand. So previous to this, I have worked in publishing, in healthcare, in media, in lots of different places actually, but never in legal. So that's interesting. But as you know, in software, we're often solving the same problems, just in different domains. Yeah, the last company I worked in London was picked up by Amazon, and I just saw that as a bit of an opportunity to try a bit of a new lifestyle, move here to New Zealand while the kids were small. And this is where I met the co-founders of LawVu in the really early days, so like day 2 or 3 of the company. And they'd kind of come up with the idea in an interesting way. One of the co-founders had been working for a law firm for 10 years and had a huge amount of frustration with the technology limitations that they were working within. And the other had just sold out of a really successful business over in Ireland, and he was really frustrated with the experience he'd had with lawyers. So really interestingly, that's both of them had that kind of experience on the law firm side. But what LawVu ended up being is a tool specifically designed for in-house legal, which is really rare. And so over the last 10 years, that's kind of formed into what we now call a legal workspace. And it was a brand new category of software. We think of ourselves as the Salesforce for legal. So it's really interesting to me that even after all this time, a lot of in-house legal teams, in fact most in-house legal teams, still have no dedicated software, and this is often the first purchase that they're actually making, which is interesting in itself. We'll talk a little bit more about later on, but it's a workspace, so we deal with everything that the legal, or we help with everything that the legal team work on. So we help them with engagement with the wider business. We give them an intake system, so these teams have really only had the Office 365 productivity tooling up until now, so they really live in Outlook, which is a great tool for what it does, as well as Excel. But really visibility across the platform has been really limited. And so with a tool like LawVu, we can help them engage with the business users where they're at. So we can have add-ins in Word, Excel, Outlook, and we can be in teams so that people, when a need comes up to engage with the legal team, they can really do that in a really quick, easy and seamless way. And we can get the right information to those lawyers right at the beginning of the process. And we capture everything then whilst the lawyers and the legal team work on that matter or contract, and even engage external counsel. So if they need extra capacity or they need specific skills, they'll engage a law firm, and then we help them manage that collaboration as well as all of the invoicing and spend that is associated with that relationship too. So it's really an end-to-end solution.
That's cool. Obviously you've picked up and then moved from the UK, which is, we have a similar journey there. I landed in Australia. You probably landed in the better country in New Zealand there, but we'll start a war if we go into that. But how did you then? You met the founders, and they've obviously got that problem that they're trying to solve through lived experience. How did you connect with it, and how was that sort of simple and clear mission, landing with you?
It's really interesting. I think, as I said before, in software you can kind of pick up your skill set, and it's really transferable across multiple domains and multiple problems. And it was really easy to see the problem space and to really liken it to different areas. So project management, it really started as legal project management in the early days. We were saying, hey, how are these legal teams actually not doing any project management whatsoever? It's just like this thing's on the go. We just don't have any visibility of it. We're not really planning out the tasks. We don't know when the end date's going to be. And so it was really just being able to liken it, like a lot of problems in life, you liken it to something that you already know. Yeah. And then, they had the idea, they knew what they wanted it to look like, but they really just needed somebody to help start building out the technical team, make choices about what technologies we were going to use. And really it became apparent really early on that we really needed to make our lives as easy as possible. We really picked a lot of difficult aspects. One, we'd decided we were going to be in the cloud, right? It was at that turning point where anything going forward needed to be there, but customers weren't really ready for it. So our customer base were really nervous, and again, they're not savvy legal tech buyers, but additionally saying, we're in the cloud, we're like 5 people working above a sushi shop in New Zealand, it's going to be sweet, basically, but we also want you to put your most legally sensitive corporate information into this tool, and you can trust us, it's going to be great, which is a very New Zealand Australian vibe, but we wanted to be a global company from day one, and so we really needed to be able to evidence our security posture. And so choosing Microsoft Azure from day one was really critical for us. The only experience that our customers did have in the cloud was Office 365, and most of them were really early on in that journey. But Microsoft is a trusted name, right? So we really hitched onto that bandwagon, and that really accelerated us in those early stages.
Awesome, thank you. And so then, thinking it through, you've kind of shared then that complexity and fragmentation that they had, not just not savvy software buyers, but also in the way that they're running their business and the problems that you're solving. Like no one's catering it for it. They're not doing it in a way that's systematic or programmatic. And then suddenly you're trying to give them a bit of software that's arguably fixing and solving a lot of these problems, but also kind of driving change and a different kind of reflection. So how did that go? How have you solving that with them to scale globally?
It's exactly as you said, incredibly painful. Change management's the hardest piece of any software purchase. Yeah. And actually in the early days, people were really frightened. We've been pure SaaS from day one as well, which is really uncommon in that legal tech space as well. So telling people all we need is an email address for your admin and you're good to go was like, hold on. And obviously we've matured a lot since then. But again, it just comes down to giving them as much familiarity as possible. So again, meet people where they're at. People, especially 10 years ago, it was all about get people into your platform, make it sticky, you don't want them going anywhere else. And we've always been very much, we don't need to own you, you don't need to be in LawVu every day. Stay where you are and we'll meet you there. Nice. And the key thing for us was always would be that data platform. So we would be that single source of truth, and that would allow us over time to build workflows. And really our mission has always been to improve the efficiency of legal teams, because when you don't know what data you have and where it is, there's a lot of rework. And there's a lot of risk associated with the kind of work that goes through the legal team. So you really need that single source of truth and that central visibility for the general counsel. But the lawyers who are acting on this data day to day, and the business users, they don't want to learn another new piece of software. Yeah. Okay, so they just want to sit in Outlook or Word and have a little pop up and drag and drop. Once in LawVu, once you've said track this email, and you've associated it to a matter, you never have to think about it again. Every single reply gets stored. It's all there for later, which has been amazing, right? We didn't know back then, but now that we have these AI tools, we have co-pilots, etc., we can dig into that. We can see all of that history of data and actually surface it up in a meaningful, efficient way for you to actually be able to utilize it. Yep. Whereas in past lives, it was just re-engage another law firm, do that piece of work again, pay the same money, and get the same result, which is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. Well, you won on the bingo card because you mentioned AI first. So now that you've mentioned it in this day and age, why don't we go to that as well? I mean, I know from our interactions that LawVu has been really pushing the boundaries of adoption of AI into your product from day one, and in partnership with Microsoft on that. I'd love to hear your side and your perspective of how you've seized the moment of AI to really make the product better and solve the problems.
For the last, I feel like it's about 18 months, I've been having this conversation with our engineering team, with our board and our investors and our C-suite of, look, guys, this is just another tool. Why do you care? And there's this real balancing act of, there's a moment and everybody's really excited about it and they want to hear what you're doing, and competitors are getting out there with products very quickly, all flashy, kind of exciting, sexy products, and you've really got to keep pace with that and build on those things. And the whole time, I've just been really conscious that we're in this really unique position of having that whole data set and being able to work across the full life cycle of a legal matter, whereas a lot of the competitive tech products out there are point solutions. Yep. So single solutions for contract drafting or redlining, for example, and it's really easy to focus in those AI tools on those kind of products. Yep. But really where I wanted, and so we've had to do that, but at the same time we've really been trying to think more holistically about our mission is to increase the efficiency of the legal team. It's really interesting actually. On day one, customers or potential customers would come to us and want to have a conversation with me about what AI do you have, because we can get budget for that. And my answer was, well, what structured data do you have? Because 10 years ago, you really needed to have the data and they didn't have any, right? So it was like a real journey that you had to take people on. And they were at, by the way, I want the AI outputs, but I don't want you to use my data or use it to train anything, et cetera, because this is really sensitive information that we're holding. Yep. So I want to learn from everybody else's, but I don't want you to learn from mine. Yeah. And guess what? Everybody else felt the same way. So it's been a real journey. And then a couple of years ago, obviously, these advancements started to really accelerate what we could do. And that mission, that purpose of LawVu really came into focus. It was like, okay, let's have a relook. Does it still work? Yes, it still works. We're not looking to use AI to replace lawyers. I mean, lots of fun and games in the press about that, right? Like new technology like this comes out and our knee-jerk reaction is to go full force and just, replace all lawyers. No, it's not going to work. Yep. But there's a whole bunch of high volume, low value, repetitive work that lawyers do every single day of the week. GPs are another great example, right? Yep. Last time you went to your doctor where they actually made eye contact with you rather than just typing into the screen the whole time, because at the end of the day, there's so much admin to do for every single piece of work. Yep. So our mission has always been to really free up the lawyer to be a strategic partner to the business, to give that proactive advice, right? Lawyers are there to actually help you, right? But they're seen as the department of no, because they only get engaged right at the end when you've already done something that you know was a bit borderline, and now you're having to go and ask them to help you get out of it. Whereas if they actually have the time and you engage them with, hey, look, we're thinking we want to do this, how can we actually go about it? They're actually quite creative, you know, and they really want to take or to help the business take the opportunity or, you know, that's in front of them. So if we do the boring stuff, or the unsexy stuff, as I like to call it, then we actually free them up to do that piece of work, which they've put all of the years of education and personal investment into actually getting to that stage. So we start to look at things like, you know, why would you pay a lawyer or even, you know, legal secretary to actually go through and look at a new contract and take 30 key dates out of it and then set up all the notifications and reminders and associated tasks? That's a job for a computer. Okay. And of course there have been ways to do this for a long time, but with the newer models coming out with reasoning, etc., every single day what we can actually extract from those pieces of content before a lawyer even needs to look at it is actually quite mind-blowing. And it really does just get rid of that low volume, that high volume, low value work very, very quickly. Things like contract summarization. Now, you saw everybody go out and do this in the legal tech world. It's one of those items I was talking about before. It's like knee-jerk, okay, let's go out and summarize a contract. Well, guess what? If you put this contract into any of those tools just out of the box without any context, then you're going to get a summary, but it's going to be different every single time you run it. And so what you're doing is you're actually creating a bunch more work for that end user, because every single time they go into contract, they actually have to read that and then they have to compare it to the original document to say, did it do a good job, until they build that level of trust. Whereas if you're a vertical SaaS solution like LawVu, you know so much already about the user, about the data, about the context of the workflow that they're in, and about the expected output that they need. So we can do all of that prompt engineering behind the scenes and not ask our user to be a prompt engineer or learn how to engage with these AI tools. And we can actually print something out that has the same format. It's all, you know, you can jump to the point that you're looking for very, very quickly, very easily. Every time you go to a different contract, it looks and feels the same. And so you start to see those efficiency gains very, very quickly. But one of the places I'm most excited about using it was in our billing guidelines review. So we talked earlier on about how LawVu allows the in-house legal team to engage with external counsel if they need it for capacity or a special use case. And what we see here is that there are whole tools out there, by the way, legal tech tools that are decades old, that are super complicated to set up and maintain these kind of billing guidelines. So rules around what can be charged for, how much can be charged for them, etc. And then there are whole jobs of just getting those invoices in and checking them against those guidelines. And, you know, you can make huge savings, millions of dollars of savings for some of our customers, you know, in that first couple of years. But then after that, the guidelines have kind of settled in and you stop seeing those returns. But you still need to maintain that software, right? Because otherwise it kind of goes away. So one of the first ideas we had at LawVu when we started to see these LLMs start appearing and becoming available to us was, what if you didn't need to create that engine? What if you could actually just take the billing guidelines in a Word document and understand what those rules were and actually compare it real time in an inbound invoice and actually just redline them the same way you would redline a contract, auto-reject, auto-approve, depending on your configuration boundaries within the system. And so we saw that through an early access program that we got through the Digital Natives relationship that we have with Microsoft. We played with those tools really early on and we proved that the concept worked, and then later as those tools advanced and became stronger at reasoning, we were able to achieve a 95% accuracy on those billing guidelines review, which was something that we hoped for, but you know, we needed to wait for those tools to evolve, and now we have a competitive product there that goes and stands up against those products that have been out for decades. And so I think it's a really interesting case, I think, for, you know, in software, when you've built something, you've put decades into something, you have an emotional attachment to it and how you're doing it. And AI is one of those things that really challenges us to think outside of that and say, actually, what if you could disrupt that whole thing? Because that's what we're really in software development for.
Absolutely. And I love I remember the other side of that journey as well, from helping with the Microsoft angle of saying, okay, we're going to try and get you early access to these tools, this LLMs and so on, to do some of these experiments with. They're not perfect. They're not ready. How do we collaborate together? And then actually, by working on that over time, I know we pushed some boundaries together, but it actually helped, like you say, launch a new product early. And it helped us with our development of those products and how we release them and provide them to other customers as well. So it was this really lovely symbiotic relationship where we kind of partner and challenge each other. I fondly remember those moments back in the early days of kind of AI rolling out. One of the things as well that I see is, as a business, you're very grounded and culturally centered in New Zealand, but you're a global from day one business that has scaled exceptionally around the world. How have you done that? How do you, what advice would you give to other people to truly be a global business from anywhere from day one?
It comes back to what I said before, partnering with Microsoft on day one, like without making this an advert for our relationship with Microsoft, like it really made a difference. I think for one thing, the true reason we were global from day one was because when we started LawVu, we all had other lives, if you like. This was a bit of a gamble, it was a startup, and that's always risky. We had young children, we all had other paying work, and so there was an element of weird hours, like any startup. And so jumping on a call in a different time zone actually suited us well. Kids were in bed, 9 p.m. here, 9 a.m. the UK, so that kind of, started there. And then obviously when COVID hit, there was a panic in the market and nobody knew what was going to happen with budgets, etc. And so there was a couple of months there where everybody was like, luckily for us, LawVu is a tool about collaboration for a department that literally has no visibility across the team. And so that really accelerated not only interest in the product, but really leveled the playing field in terms of implementation. Until then, people were used to a world where you'd have a whole on-site implementation team coming in and doing on-site training, etc.
Yep.
And in COVID, it didn't matter that we were on the other side of the world, as long as we were awake and online and, able to handhold everybody through it, which we've always committed to do. That really opened things up. But from the Microsoft side, all jokes aside, it was critical to choose that platform because of its familiarity with our customers, but also knowing that our customers have really sensitive privacy regulations. And so data sovereignty is a huge consideration for all of our customers. And it became apparent really quickly that even though we are a true SaaS platform, we really needed to be able to operate independent stacks in different areas around the world so that we could meet those obligations for our customers. And so knowing that all of the services and things that we're using within the Azure ecosystem were going to be available in all of those key territories was really critical for us. And the same again with the AI advancements, where's my data? Who's going to see it? Are you going to train on it? Like, as much as the technology side of things was important, really building trust and educating our customers on what was happening behind the scenes and how we were actually using their data was super important. And we've been on the whole ISO 27001 SOC HIPAA journey since a couple of years in, but knowing that our underlying technologies are all compliant with those things as well, and that Microsoft is spending the dollars, for want of a better term, on advancing all of that AI tech meant that we can remain specialists in what we do, understanding the context of our legal teams and their problems and solving those, whilst relying on the fact that you guys are always working on those technologies under the hood, taking advantage of all of the latest advancements there and pushing them to us in early access programs through our digital native connection. But also, like, AI aside, we were working on the search project previous to that with your black belt team for a couple of years, working on products that were going to be released. That's one of the horror stories, because I think we just come up with a solution and decided that product wasn't going to go to market. But that's the trade-off, right? You want to be in those early access programs. And what actually happened was, the reason it didn't go to market was because a whole lot of learnings were found and another product offering replaced that within a couple of months. But again, being able to really just get that information quickly and pivot was really critical to our success.
Yeah, it's those transparent
that's being a startup.
Ones, right? Yeah, that's being a startup and then working with startups. It's that dancing on the edge and having that transparency and partnership, because it's not always going to work every time. I agree. And what are you seeing as next in this space? There's lots of talk around agentic AI and what the influence of that is. There's lots of artificial general intelligence conversations, and then there's, being a major player in software for in-house legal teams, and then growing and growing. So like, where are you thinking about what's next?
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Like there's some scary videos out there saying that, vertical SaaS solutions going out the window, you don't need them anymore, can be all be replaced with agents. I don't see that happening. I think, like anything, when AI or the LLMs were first released, we had a whole bunch of customers or leads saying, actually, why do we need LawVu? Can we not just use SharePoint and we can plug these LLMs in and great? It's like, yeah, great. Yeah, you can search now, so you can do a better job of finding some content. But a platform, a vertical SaaS solution does so much more than that. Yeah. Agents are the same. We can put the tools into capable hands and make sure that they can actually build these agents and run them. But it still needs governance and compliance, and that's where your platform and your workspaces come in, because they bring it together. They give it a home. You need, imagine. I just imagine if I gave everybody at LawVu these tools and they all started overriding each other's Salesforce data, it would be absolute chaos. So I don't think anything's changed in that every single time there's a leap like this, people question what stays and what goes. And with any company, especially, the likes of a startup or a scale up as we are now, the key is to being able to pivot and not being emotionally attached to what you've done before. Yeah. So you look at the technology and you ask yourself the same question: how do I best use this to get value to my customer? Yeah. In a lot of cases, software is just software. Yep. We don't feel like that at LawVu. We are partners to our customers, and we really are in their headspace every single day, understanding what challenges they have, and that changes over time. So you owe them, that commitment. It's all the change management. It's helping them change the behaviours of their wider business to engage with them better, to use the data that they put back out better. So there's no shortage of things for us to do. Yes, you could always do these things in-house. But the problem is, do you want a development team in-house? Do you want a whole, you'd have to employ everyone that you would need in a vertical SaaS solution. So people do it for a little bit and then they realise that there's still a job for software companies. So that doesn't worry me. Where I think it will go, God, it's really exciting, because I think, again, having that central data platform and being that single source of truth really opens up some exciting opportunities for us. One of the things that we're working on at the moment is kind of premium contract clause library, or grid, if you like. So imagine when the GDPR came out and there were all of these new rules that you had to comply with, and legal teams everywhere had to hire up interns or juniors to come in and scour every single contract they had to make sure that the right provisions were in those. So with the tools that we have now and the technology, we can actually run that, surface that up to you, and then let you do that next piece of work, which is strategizing on how do we actually go about making the modifications that we need to do, how do we actually roll that out across the business and to all our suppliers or to all of our customers. Work changes, but it never goes away. No. So the key thing is just, staying on top of the technology and just moving with it. Yeah,
I love it. And you've seen that. I mean, even in my personal journey with LawVu as a partner and customer, and how you continue to adapt, and it's all centered around your very clear understanding of your customers and what they need. And if you center yourselves on that and then think about how do we apply technology to take those problems and solve them, the wrong word is to say niche, but you're just expert in this area, which is vertically integrated, and it becomes so intrinsic to them and their business that you actually just solve so many of their problems. I love seeing that, and then how you adapt with them. So from my perspective, I'm just incredibly proud of the partnership that we've been able to achieve together. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I did want to say, actually, on the partnership piece, the Digital Natives program has been really significant for us. We talked a little bit about the early adopter program or early access programs and things like that. But really, that's just one piece. The work that we've done on co-branding or that brand recognition piece for us with Microsoft has been incredible. Being in a small country like New Zealand, we've been able to actually float to the top quite quickly, and getting spots in sessions with President of Asia and co and over in Redmond has been really good for us, not just for us to be able to put our story forward and tell you guys our needs, but also hearing what you guys are doing and how you see this future of AI shaping out has been really, really valuable to us as well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I love the fact that you're you share the good and the bad, and it helps us grow as well. And sharing with our wider customers and showcasing the work you're doing is really valuable. So thank you. Yeah, that's great. No, thank you very much for the time. And it's great that we're able to do this virtually. I'm sitting here in sunny Singapore, and you're in New Zealand, and here we are having a seamless. Yeah. Thanks for tuning into AI Edge by Microsoft. If this conversation has sparked new ideas or insights for you, follow and share to stay connected to the pulse of AI innovation in Asia. Until next time, keep leading, keep building, and stay curious.